Brand new details on the Benghazi terror attack. A new report says that dozens of CIA operatives were on the ground the night of the consulate ambush, and the agency is going to great lengths, according to these reports, to keep that information secret. Meantime, a House committee handing down 2 congressional subpoenas to the State Department, calling for all documents relevant to their own internal investigation of the attack that cost 4 Americans their lives. Issuing those subpoenas, Republican Congressman Darrell, Issa, who is chairman, of course, of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Congressman Issa, good to talk to you, sir. What are you asking for this round?
Well, Rick, we're asking for 2 things. First of all, the documents that have been going in and out of the House every day for months, we need to be able to have them, make copies of them, and produce reports the American people are entitled to. And the vast majority of these are completely unclassified. The second area, I think, is of greater concern. We've determined through our transcribed interviews and depositions that the ARB report really is insufficient, that they didn't do the kinds of questioning they should have. And we've had fact witnesses tell us they weren't even asked questions about the allegations that led to their being put on paid administrative leave. So to do that review, we really do need to see their working papers to figure out where something went so wrong in some of the conclusions, not holding enough people accountable and not even having the people held accountable understand why.
And that ARB report that you referred to, that's the internal investigation. And those in charge of it didn't ever talk to Hillary Clinton, who, of course, was running the State Department at the time of the Benghazi attack. You want to know why?
Well, we do sort of know why, and that is that the ARB report is a very limited document. It's really by the secretary asking people to look into something. It's required by Congress, but it's not the kind of investigation that you would expect us to do when 4 Americans have lost their lives, facilities have been damaged, and the very question of whether we did the right thing before, during, and told the truth afterwards is at stake. And of course, this scandal, if you will, we don't think it's a phony scandal. The families of the loved ones don't think it's a phony scandal. This goes far beyond just one part of government. It's not just the State Department. It's the CIA, as you said earlier, and it's our U.S. military.
Congressman Issa, a spokesperson for the current Secretary of State, John Kerry, with a statement out after you have asked for these additional documents. And he said that the department has worked in good faith to meet all of your many demands, and his committee has had daily access to some 25,000 pages of documents since January. We've offered and provided access to specific documents. And he goes on to say, I'm scratching my head trying to ascertain what practical value yet another Issa subpoena has in protecting our diplomats. Your response?
Well, first of all, the ARB report is considered by the State Department to be a definitive document. So we need to look at it because we have found that it didn't do its job in some critical areas, perhaps because it's limited in scope, because of the nature of that investigation. But we need to look behind the scenes to find out how they held so few people accountable. And those people, by the way, are still getting full paychecks and will for the foreseeable future. But secondly, he shouldn't scratch his head. You can't let us poke at some paper documents and not allow us to make appropriate copies and use them in reports. And we can't do that right now. So if they want to bring them in and let us make photocopies, that subpoena would go away.
What's your gut tell you, Congressman Issa? What is this all about? Is this about protecting Hillary Clinton and her future presidential prospects? Is this possibly about some kind of an arms deal between the U.S. and the Syrian rebels? What really is going on here? What are officials trying to keep from being made public?
Well, Rick, we have to follow the facts, and the facts have told us that before Benghazi, there were plenty of calls for help that were unheeded by people at the highest levels of the State Department, people that report directly to Hillary Clinton. During the attack, they did not call on our friends and allies to bring aid. And as you know, there were agency individuals with guns there, some of whom were used, some of whom weren't, but none of whom were used quickly and decisively. And lastly, whether it's Ambassador Rice or others, the constant misleading and denials of what actually happened and false statements about what did happen, that's of concern because the American people deserve the truth on day one, not a evolving truth that goes on until actually for as long as it takes for us to prove that they didn't tell the truth the first time.
And finally, sir, you've heard these reports about CIA employees being intimidated, trying to get them to keep quiet about what they know about the Benghazi attack, those reports from CNN. Have your investigators been able to uncover anything on that?
Well, we are aware that there's a pattern of saying you must coordinate with their bosses before talking to Congress. Of course, that's not consistent with the law, and it leads to a general belief that you shouldn't talk to Congress, and that happens to be obstruction. It's illegal under the statutes.
Darrell, Issa is the chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, joining us live this morning from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.